Good morning, everyone. We'll get started in about 2 minutes.
So this was like the little talking points.
Okay.
And then, of course, the agenda.
Okay.
And that's really,
Okay. All right. So, John,
those are just the new people.
okay.
So,
And
I didn't know if you was going to let the
Paul,
people introduce
okay.
themselves or not. But those are just your new members.
Is Butler here?
He should.
If y'all go ahead and be seated. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first meeting of 2025. It's really a good feeling to see that most of the committee from last session really want to hang in here for all the issues we have to deal with. And we've got some wonderful new members as well. So this is going to be an overview meeting this morning. And we have so many committee meetings already going on. So half the committee has said, I hope you understand we got to go to our next meeting at 8:30. So I'm going to try and take care of all of y'all and get us started here. And I'm learning this new layout, but if Representative Smith will open with a prayer and do a 21? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lord, we do thank you for this beautiful day you've given us, and help us to understand the things you want us to do, your will instead of ours. And we just thank you for all the blessings you've given us. We ask that you look after our families back home, our spouses, our children, our grandchildren. Take care of them. Lead, guide, and direct us, Lord, in everything we do and say. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. So, again, welcome to everybody. I would like to introduce our staff. The reason we look good is because they make us look good. So, first of all, we have Lead Counsel and Paul Higbee. If you'll just wave down there, he has years and years of experience, and yet he still chose to be our legislative advisor. Our committee policy analyst is Anna Smith, and she's available to get you resources or information as you need it. Anna, you want to say hello briefly? You're 2020. Okay.
Good morning. My name is Anna Smith. I'm a budget and policy analyst in the House Budget and Research Office. If there's anything I can do to be of service to any of you, please let me know.
And the magic lady, Nicole Chappelle, takes care of all the administrative things for this committee. And she told me to tell you she will be sending you email communications on some of the information we get this morning. And then Butler Matthews. Butler, where are you? Oh, you got to stand up and come a little bit forward. We're going to look at you for a second and welcome you. You are the Suite 228 intern this year, University of Georgia. Student still, and very interested in these issues. So welcome aboard. And now what we'll do, and before we get to our program, if I'll start with Representative Corbett, and we'll go all the way around. If you will briefly introduce yourself, say what district you're from, and just maybe a couple of identifying sentences, and I'll ask each committee member as we go along if you'll press your button, and then I can get to you that way. So, Representative Corbett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. John Corbett, represents District 174, which is Lowndes, Eccles, Clinch, Ware, Charlton, and Brantley counties. This is my 11th year on this committee, and honored to be here. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Number 28.
Good morning. I'm Judd Howard, District 71, former seat of Jay Collins. I represent portions of Carrollton, Temple, and Villa Rica out in West Georgia, and we're in the agriculture industry and the turf and sodgrass business.
Thank you. Number 27.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Matthew Gamble, Cartersville, Bartow County, Red Top Mountain State Park, Etowah Indian Mounds, and our regional EPD office.
Thank you. And number 27? 26. Okay, sorry.
My name is Joe Campbell. I'm from District 171, very much South Georgia, actually butts up against the Florida line. Mitchell, Decatur, and Grady are involved in very heavy agricultural area, and that's our main thing there. And I'm honored to serve on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 25.
David Huddleston, District 72, which is Carroll, Heard, and Troup County. It's my third year on the committee.
Thank you. Number 24.
Kimberly News, State House 40, District 40. I am the ever-changing district number. I was 67, I was 64, and now I'm 40, which was a good year, I'm not going to lie, which is Douglas County and Paulding County.
Thank you. Number 23.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm Jesse Petrie. I represent District 166, Chatham and Bryan counties on the Georgia coast, home of the most beautiful site in the state of Georgia, Wormslow Historic Site, managed by DNR.
Thank you. Number 22.
Morning, Madam Chair. Rick Townsend, Glenn County, District 179. I have about 70% of it. Sea Island, St. Simons, Brunswick, and Blythe Island. Home, of course, our Coastal Resources Division, and tell you, one of the best places in the state, if not the best.
Thank you. 21.
I'm Vance Smith. I represent District 138, parts of Muskogee, Columbus, parts of Harris, and parts of Troup. Follows along the Chattahoochee River. So really appreciate DNR and what they do, and have this little state park down there called FDR Roosevelt State Park. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Number 20.
That's me.
All right, Skip. Number 19.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Deborah Bazemore, and I serve District 69, which encompasses Fulton and Fayette County, and I've been serving on this committee with one of my favorite chairpersons for 9 years now.
Thank you. Number 18.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Debbie Buckner. I represent House District 137, which includes Muskogee, Talbot, Meriwether, Troup, and part of Fort Moore. I represent Warm Springs, which has usually the most visited state historic site in the state, the Little White House. And I've been serving on this committee. This is my 23rd year.
Thank you. Number 17. Am I keeping up? Okay.
Robert Dickey. I represent 4 counties in the mid-state, and Lamar, Crawford, Peach, Upson, and Lamar. I guess that's 5. So anyway, glad to be on the committee for 12 years, I believe. And my district adjusts the Flint River, beautiful Flint River, and glad to be here this morning.
Thank you. Number 16.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm Johnny Chastain. I represent the 7th District, which is Fannin County, Gilmer County, little part of western part of Dawson County. So if you go through my district going north, you'll be in North Carolina or Tennessee. So as far as you can go north. Glad to be here.
Thank you. And 15.
Good morning. Good morning. Sorry.
Is it on?
Chaz Cannon, I'm District 172, covers all of Colquitt, the northern part of Thomas County, western part of Cook. I have Reed Bingham in my district. Glad to be here. First year on the committee.
Thank you. Number 14, 13. What? 13.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I represent Savannah, Georgia, the seaport city, tourism, port logistics, number 2 in feature film, and home of all Jesse Petrie's seafood.
Number 13. Representative Petrie, we got a lot of things to hit you with, like your trip to D.C., but we'll get to that later. I think I need to go now to number 1.
Hi, I'm State Representative Long Tran, District 80. I only have one county, DeKalb County, and it's an honor to be a part of this committee this year.
Thank you. Number 4.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Buddy Deloach. I live in McIntosh County. I represent all of McIntosh all along part of Liberty, part of Wayne, and part of Glenn.
Thank you. Number 5.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Derek McCollum. I'm representing District 30 in South Hall, and I have a little portion of Gwinnett. I have beautiful Lake Lanier in my district, and I'm glad to hear this will be my 3rd year. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 7.
Well, good morning. I'm Representative Viola Davis, and I serve House District 87 primarily in Stone Mountain, Tucker, and Pine Lake in the great county of DeKalb.
Thank you. Number 9.
Lauren McDonald III, I represent Forsyth County, Lake Lanier District 26.
Thank you. 10.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Noah Williams, House District 148. I represent Georgia veterans and beautiful Lake Blackshear, and we're getting a major facelift, and y'all all need to come down once it's completed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Number 11.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Hagan. I live in Lyons. I represent House District 156. And what I think is the best state park, Little Mogi State Park. This is my 3rd term on this committee.
Thank you. Number 12.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Holt Persinger, District 119. I represent Barrow and Jackson counties, and I live in the city of Winder, which is the home of Fort Yargo State Park.
Thank you. And to those listening and to those here, our committee represents the state of Georgia. We're from all areas of the state. We're from urban, rural, and very rural parts of the state. And we put all the puzzle pieces together and do our best to make good policy. So thank y'all for returning, and those of you who want to join this committee. So today is an overview. We deal with lots of different state agencies, all having to deal in the broader category of natural resources. And so we will give you an overview this morning. It's a lot of detail. We'll send you the emails on that. But again, to those of you who are here this morning, and those of you who had to drive in and to get here at this meeting time, thank you for that as well. And we will now go to a presentation from the head of Natural Resource and Environment, Walter Rabin. Somebody has just pushed a button and has to, listen, this is why we're a good committee. So if you'll hold on for just a second, before we can genuinely operate, we need to vote on our rules. I conveniently forgot that. So if you will look in your folders for a minute, to tell you how much we know each other, thank you, Representative Corbett. He only had to look at me and point like, what are you doing here? So anyway, thank you. So our House rules are unchanged from 2024. This is 2025, 2026 House rules. But just take a second, please, to look over it. Again, this has served our committee well through the years. And do you have a second? I'll recognize a motion. All right, I have a motion and a second. I'm going to pause just a little bit in case there are any additional questions anywhere from the committee. I will now entertain a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Nay. All right, thank you. And again, this is not an easy committee. We have to really be nerds. We have to really want to dig in and learn a lot of what's going on. And we realize very well intense pressure doesn't necessarily mean that will help us make a good decision. So I want to thank the committee for its willingness to commit to and to learn all the aspects of the problems we're dealing with before making decisions. So welcome aboard again, and now we're going to get an overview of the great state of Georgia from our commissioner. Commissioner?
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. It is my pleasure to be here with you this morning. I'm so proud as y'all went around introducing yourselves to hear you speak of the state properties, the DNR managed state properties that you all have in your districts. Thank you for engaging and thank you for that support. This will be a very brief overview, so you're stuck with me today. I think we'll come back at a later time with some division directors that can really get down into the weeds of what they do day in and day out. But for this morning, DNR is comprised of 5 divisions. One of our divisions, the Environmental Protection Division, is managed by Director Jeff Cowan, who I think you'll hear from in just a few minutes. One thing that we are super proud of is that we touch every part of the state, and we touch every Georgian in some shape, form, or fashion through the Department of Natural Resources. With our 4 divisions, we have over 1,900 employees, and we manage about a $355 million budget. Of that $355 million, about 40% of that is state dollars, 25% of that is federal dollars, we hope, with this freeze going on, and 35% of that is just other dollars is what we can call it, and that's revenues, park pass, and donations that we receive. We manage more than 1.2 million acres of public lands and around 16,000 miles of streams and over 500,000 acres of impoundments with some of our partners as well. We are a significant partner to many state agencies and NGO organizations in tourism and the recreational industries. I'll go into, again, very briefly, very high level, what our 4 divisions do and how we provide opportunities for our residents and visitors alike. Our Coastal Resources Division, I know it's well represented in this room. We manage about 105 miles of coastline. That's from the tip to tip. That encompasses about 300 square miles of ocean and 3,400 miles of shoreline. That's a lot of shoreline in 100 miles of coastline. Through the Coastal Resources Division, they touch about 11 coastal counties down there, which includes about 700,000 people in those 11 counties. The Coastal Resources Division does that through 2 sections. We have the marine fisheries and the coastal management sections within CRD. In the marine fisheries, they conduct scientific surveys of all marine life and the habitats that they live in. They participate in interstate and federal fisheries management processes, which would include the red snapper that I've talked to many of you about over the last several months. They perform marine life habitat assessments, restoration, and we do many enhancement processes across the state. They survey and collect data for recreational anglers and commercial fishermen as well, and they provide boating and fishing access opportunities along the salt waters of Georgia. The Coastal Management Section, they're in charge of administering the Georgia Coastal Management Program that many of you are very familiar with. They're very engaged with the local governments with public access, coastal hazard preparedness, and green growth. They fund local projects and research through coastal incentive grants that we administer. They monitor water quality at swimming beaches and the water quality with shellfish growing areas, which also includes our new mariculture industry that's up and growing now. And then lastly, they issue and enforce permits for structures and activities in coastal marshlands, public waters, and along the shorelines. Next division I'll hit on very briefly is our Law Enforcement Division. Somewhere around 200 strong as far as number of personnel in uniform. And I hope Colonel Hitchens is listening, but we are the oldest state law enforcement unit in Georgia, which we began enforcing game and fish laws in 1911. They are charged mainly with enforcing hunting, fishing, and boating and environmental laws. They provide public safety on all of our controlled properties that we manage, and they serve the public throughout Georgia. I do want you to know it's important to point out that our Georgia game wardens are post-certified police officers. They have statewide authority and full arrest powers just like any other law enforcement officer in the state. And we kind of call them the Swiss Army knife of law enforcement. Law enforcement off the pavement, in the streams, and in the streets of Atlanta. We're involved with all aspects of law enforcement. And then, as many of you brought up, our State Parks and Historic Sites Division. Super proud of the fact that we get to protect the most valuable, vulnerable state natural and historic resources that we have in our state that we're blessed to have. They manage about 65 different properties that preserve our environment, history, and provide outdoor recreational opportunities of all types. If you think about it, and it's represented on this committee, but from the Blue Ridge Mountains to the coast, our sites offer an exceptional variety of opportunities for all Georgians. What's super great about our Georgia State Parks is we're an economic driver for this state. We bring in a lot of visitors. Last year, 14 million visitors came through the gates of our Georgia State Parks. That's incredible. And that generated an economic impact for our state of about $1.6 billion. So a huge economic driver in our state. Our Wildlife Resources Division is managed through 4 sections. We have a game management, fisheries management, a wildlife conservation section, and then a communication, education, and outreach section. Our game management section manages over 1 million acres of land for hunting, fishing, and other wildlife pursuits, including bird watching, hiking, camping, and conservation education. They also conduct research and surveys to monitor our hunter-harvest wildlife populations and our habitats. The fisheries management section, again, you heard me say this earlier, manages about 500,000 acres of our lakes, 12,000 miles of warm water streams, and then we have about 4,000 miles of trout streams in our state. We have 10 hatcheries throughout the state. We stocked more than 10 million fish last year in our Georgia streams and reservoirs. They survey our fish populations to determine that our management approaches are where they need to be, and they set those regulations on our fish populations. They also construct and maintain the many public boat ramps and fish attractors. We investigate the pollution and fish kills that happen throughout the state almost on a weekly, monthly basis. And then again, they operate our fish hatcheries and public fishing areas and engage the next generation of fishermen, anglers in our state as well through kids fishing events. The wildlife conservation section, if you think about all of the critters, all of the wildlife that we get to hunt in our state, everything that we don't get to hunt, which is probably 95% of the species that we have in our state, this is what the wildlife conservation section manages. So they also protect those valuable habitats. We do a lot of education through this section and a lot of research and management. And then lastly, we did just create within this fiscal year the communication, education, and outreach section. And as it's titled, we do a numerous amount of educational efforts, communication. I like to tout that we're probably the most, if the most transparent agency in state government. And this section also manages our 7 education centers that we have throughout our state. Again, very high level. This is just a bit of information about who we are and what we do. And I think we'll have an opportunity to come back at a later time and do a deeper dive into what these divisions really do day in and day out. And with that, Madam Chair, if I could take some questions before I get into a brief CWD update.
Yes, thank you. And to our committee, we will keep our questions brief. This time we've got all session to do the deep dives. We've got 3 other agencies we'll be hearing from, so I will move us along if I need to. But before we do the questions, I think by this presentation, y'all realize what a wonderful state we have in the state of Georgia. And I've worked since 1997 with DNR and all the folks. And I think it's a calling as much as it is a job. And I could say that about everybody I've ever met. And so they share their passion for the state. And I thank you for the countless hours you dedicate all your people. And so, 2 questions. I really will hold you to like a second. All right, number 23.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be very quick. Commissioner, first, let me just say I can't tell you how much on the coast we appreciate everyone that works under you. Your staff, your leadership in particular, are just so responsive and helpful. Y'all do a fantastic job, and I want you to know that. One quick question. You've created a new outreach communication division. I love that. State's becoming more urban. We have to make sure we educate, particularly in areas where people didn't grow up the way I did. Are we making sure, we need to make sure, and I hope we are, that people understand the degree to which conservation efforts in this country, and certainly in Georgia, are almost totally funded by sportsmen, by hunters and fishermen. And not everybody knows that. I hope that's part of that communication so people can understand that, and that's all I need to say in the interest of time.
Absolutely.
And so to that point, you need to buy lots of equipment because that funds the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Act.
Yes, ma'am.
So number 29.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just follow up on Representative Petrie, the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Act. Got a thank you from a person that lives down there, the noise cut that was closed off, the additional money that the state has put in. They've got the final money from the feds to finish that project, and they was thanking us for what we've done, and just want to pass that along to you. Thank you.
It has been a great program that the Madam Chair got across the finish line 2018, and I don't even have the numbers in front of me, but I think over probably getting closer to $400 million of conservation projects that have been funded through that program in our state. It's incredible.
Again, we're so lucky to have your leadership and the people who serve. So you do want to give us one briefing on something, and I think it's a question we all have. So if you'll go ahead and address that.
It's really hot off the presses. Many of you have heard us talk about over the last several years our preparation for chronic wasting disease, and for the sake of time and my tongue getting tied up, we'll call it CWD moving forward. But I'll say that last week through our Wildlife Resources Division, we did receive positive confirmation from the U.S. Department of Agriculture's National Veterinary Services Laboratory that one of our hunter harvested deer tested positive for CWD. The deer was harvested at the end of November near the Lanier and Berrien County line, and the sample was collected as a part of DNR's routine surveillance. So I'm very, very proud that the system that our team had put in place worked. It was not a parent sick deer. It wasn't something that was stumbling around across the road or someone's backyard. It was our routine efforts that identified this disease. And on that, I'll say since 2002, our Wildlife Resources Division has been working on statewide surveillance for this disease. And we sampled about 1,800 deer annually around the state since 2002. And then we have one deer that was been identified. How have we been preparing for that? The ongoing surveillance, taking these samples, educating our hunters in the field. Again, lots of preparation by our team has been ongoing. It's just now that we have a positive deer in our state, we have joined 35 other states and 3 Canadian provinces that do have this disease. What I'll say is that, let me assure you, deer hunting is still fine in our state. It's not going away with this discovery that we have. Will continue to thrive. There will be much educational effort that goes forth to educate those hunters and non-hunters alike in this discovery. And when I say that, we've got to maintain our support that we have now through our hunters, our landowners, but every single Georgian. I mean, every Georgian, whether you be in an urban or rural environment, needs to be cognizant that the disease is here. Be diligent in looking. If you do see a sick deer that you suspect, call us. Let us know. We'll respond. We'll take a sample. And we'll test the deer. That's the way that we're going to manage this disease, and it doesn't go away. I'd hate to sit up here and get into the technicalities of what the disease is, but it is a folded protein that turns into a prion that does infect the landscape of where the deer are. With that being said, it's not going away. The other important takeaway from this is at this time, while the CDC does not recommend eating a deer that has tested positive for CWD, there has never been a case, and this has been around since 1967 in Colorado. There's never been a case where CWD has been contracted to a human being. So with that being said, that's, again, very quick overview, and we've got about a 30-minute presentation if the committee wanted to hear more about it later. But before I give up the mic to the other speakers, let me say how proud I am of our staff and the work that has been done through that. You know, you see the leadership of our department here with me, and I should have done that to begin with. You see our deputy commissioners, Thomas Bernard.
If you'll just stand up and wave, that'll. So they'll know who to call and fuss at. So.
Well, and there's two of them, so call both of them. And the other deputy commissioner is Trevor Santos.
And he will be connecting you, the one person you connect with through the legislative.
That
process.
is correct.
All
But while you see the three of us up here and we're not pretty to look at, let me tell you that we've got a team at WRD that's boots on the ground as we sit here this morning, that are educating our hunters, that are collecting samples, working to test other deer. We now have Lanier and Berrien counties are our what we will consider our chronic waste and disease zone. And then we've got, you know, if it had to come, this is not a bad time of the year to come. We've got the rest of this winter, spring, and summer to educate our hunters on how they can help us to manage this disease. And again, we can provide you more information, but if you were to go to georgiawildlife.com/CWD, all of the information is there. There's it can tell you everything about these proteins and prions, and there's also a document there with frequently asked questions that I know many of you are getting already in your districts.
Thank you very much. And to the committee, throughout this legislative session, we will delve more deeply into each one of our divisions as part of an educational process. Again, on behalf of our committee, we certainly are honored to serve on this committee, and we thank you for everything that your whole division does. Thank you. And our next presenter is going to be Jeff Cowan with EPD, but while he's coming up, if Tom McCall will stand up in the audience, he's lost, but go ahead and stand up. He might still think he's chair of ag, but he has just been a wonderful servant leader to the state of Georgia for several years, and thank you, Mr. McCall, for visiting us. And Jeff, now you get to talk about land, water, and air.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Jeff Cowan. I'm the Director of the Environmental Protection Division. I'm in my 35th year with DNR, 30 years with EPD, and 5 years with State Parks, and I'm glad to be here with you. And I think I've been with Madam Chair since '97 and working with this committee.
And we're still here.
We're still here. Environmental Protection Division, our mission is to protect and restore Georgia's environment. We take the lead in ensuring clean air, water, and land with our partners, which is very important, and y'all are our partners. We have a lot of partners. We pursue a sustainable environment that provides a foundation for a vibrant economy and healthy communities, and we take that very serious. I have, I think y'all may have the PowerPoint if you want, just to look at. We don't need to play it, but.
And then also we will get that to the committee members as well.
The leadership in EPD is important folks. The main folks are Anya Trushinsky. It's taken me a long time to say that. She's our watershed protection chief. It's like Groundhog Day. We were here yesterday talking about ag wells with Chairman Dickey. Jim Boylan with our air protection branch. Chuck Mueller with our land protection branch. And Jim Cooley with our district operations. They're the folks you're going to see the most. The people you'll interface with up here will be John Eunice, my deputy director, sitting over here, and Katie Haggerty, my policy and governmental affairs person. We also, and I'll go through some other things we have, but our funding, we have over about $145 million, which is about 24% state funding, but we also have the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund, which is state funding, and the Solid Waste Trust Fund as well. That thank y'all for all the help y'all have with our funding there. And this goes back to Rick Dunn's terminology as a conservative yet complex budget, if you've heard that from our good OPB directors who preceded me at EPD. In the Watershed Protection Branch, under Anya's leadership, we ensure public water systems are operating properly to supply safe drinking water. We all want clean water. We issue permits to local governments and industry to discharge wastewater and stormwater that meets criteria that will protect our environment. We monitor, study, and model these streams that Walter and his team look at every day. We monitor those for any contaminants and all that. We conduct compliance and enforcement activities. We issue water withdrawal permits to local governments, farmers, industries, and water suppliers, so we are protecting our water supply. We regulate Category 1 dams. We conduct regional water planning, which is a very important thing right now we're trying to work on. And we control non-point sources of pollution through grants and volunteer programs. It's our 319 grant program to help with many things, non-point source that we don't have a pipe going out and discharging. And I'm just giving you a high level. As y'all know, there's much more that goes in here. And our air protection branch under Jim Boylan's leadership, we monitor air quality statewide. We have 34 air monitors around the state that we monitor for all our pollutants and all that are required. We license users of radioactive materials. We inspect sources permitted and licensed by the branch. Anybody has an air permit, we do those permits and do compliance on those as well. We oversee the Georgia Vehicle Emission Inspection Program. We provide assistance to small businesses that are wanting to get into, need an air permit or any other kind of permits. We develop state air quality rules and state implementation plans, which is very important. Some of the ones we're working on, we became attainment in ozone about 3 years ago, but we have to continue working. There's a lot of maintenance that goes on. We got attainment during COVID, which was a good thing for air quality, but now everybody's back driving and flying, so we have to be very diligent. We also have new requirements from EPA on PM 2.5 that we're working very diligently, and I'm going to recommend to federal EPA next week that we stay in attainment for PM 2.5, where we have a lot of partners, including Director Sabo that's coming up here in a minute on PM 2.5, because we do a lot of scrap burning in this state. We develop emission inventories and control strategies, and we also prepare for radiological emergencies with our 2 nuclear power plants and any other emergency we have. Under Land Protection Branch, we have Chuck Mueller leading that. We manage treatment, storage, processing, disposal, and cleanup of all waste, solid and hazardous waste under the Resource Conservation Recovery Act, including CCR, coal combustion residuals, that we've spoke many times at this committee about. We also investigate releases from hazardous waste sites, solid waste sites, underground storage tanks, and work to remediate those. We permit tire carriers, processors, and investigate illegal tire dumps and abandoned tire piles. We've talked about that many years, but we still have those going on, but we have a great program that's working every day to clean up all the illegally dumped tires. We oversee training of lead-based paint and asbestos providers, workers, and investigators, and also solid waste operators in the state. We permit surface mining sites and protect buffers. We administer the Solid Waste Trust Fund, the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund, and the Georgia Underground Storage Tank Trust Fund. And I appreciate the dedication of the Solid Waste Trust Fund and the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund by the legislature. It gives us a lot of money there. We can work to clean up tire piles, help local governments with their landfills. We're old landfills leaking and all that too, so we do a lot, and clean up hazardous waste sites. So thank y'all for that. We have our district offices in emergency response. We have 6 districts and 7 offices statewide, and they ensure that the regulated community is in compliance with applicable rules, regulations, and permits through outreach, monitoring, report, review, and enforcement. Everybody thinks they're come do enforcement. They're there more so to educate and provide technical assistance. And they also they do about 4,000 complaints a year. So that's the first in your communities. That's the first folks that your constituents will see with them. We also do emergency response activities. The cargo ship that turned over down off of St. Simon's, the fire we had down the road, every time a tanker truck turns over on the interstate and spills diesel and all, we've got a team that goes out and works to get those things handled. We have an EPD laboratory that has about 70 folks working to do water samples, safe drinking water samples. They can do wastewater samples. We do about 1,000 samples a week, and more importantly, the thing we're probably going to continue to talk a little bit about now, a new thing is PFAS, and we have the capabilities of testing for PFAS in our laboratory that'll help our local governments, because we're fixing to come up on a lot of testing for that in our drinking water systems and our wastewater systems. And that's all I have, a quick overview, because I know Director Hill and Director Sabo would love to talk to y'all, so I'd be happy to answer any questions, Madam Chair.
First of all, thank you for this presentation, and to the committee, especially to the newer members of the committee. This agency is dealing with the budget and the number of people they have when the population was much smaller than 11 million and growing population. And the challenges that they face are overwhelming, but they have very talented, knowledgeable leaders in each one of their divisions, and always available to us. But if you enjoy clean water, if you are not engaged in a lawsuit with a neighboring state, I can go on and on and on about how the skill sets and the knowledge that all the people with EPD have. Our state keeps growing and improving, even though our population is increasing. In other words, we're keeping a little bit ahead of the tidal wave. But I can't thank you and the people who work for you enough for what you do. And now we have 2 questions. Again, I'm going to do the 1 second time. Number 4.
I represent all coastal counties, and we've become painfully aware of what happens when we don't have proper planning for our water resources. I look forward to working with you and try to move that planning forward and do it very, very rapidly. As you know, we have counties where one can withdraw groundwater and one can't, and so it's just a mess right now. So I hope that planning process moves forward rapidly, and if you let us know what we can do to help you, I want to be a part of that.
Thank you, Representative. We have a meeting scheduled for February 24th with our Coastal Water Council, and Anya and Dr. Wei Zing, the folks that really know about this stuff, will be there at that meeting. But yes, sir, we are working all the water councils are important, but right now we've been focusing on the southwest part of the state, and we're going to focus on the coastal part and continue to work on all the other councils as well.
Thank you, Representative Deloach. And then to the committee again, we're just scratching the top of the surface with all the problems you solve. Number 22.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Real quick, echo what Representative Deloach said, but also thank you for, you mentioned the Golden Ray incident and also Pine Nova down the road, and you do have a talented team and talented leader, and you guys have done a good job of down there monitoring it. I know the Pine Nova situation is not over yet, but you guys are on the job, and we appreciate it. And we just, for my district itself, I know we thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for your presentation. And what I'll do for the next presenter, because the Georgia Environmental Financial Authority is one of the resources we use as we deal with our problems. And then from that, we're going to go deep dive into our forestry. Thank you again, and if you'll come on up. But one of the things that happened with the Golden Ray, if you never saw that on the coast, you could see it from Jekyll Island, you could see it from St. Simons, and there was such worry and fear. But one of the things the representative from that area told me is that they had a huge increased sale in ice cream, because people would get their ice cream and go down to the dock on the St. Simons Pier and look at everything. So I'm glad we helped the economy a little bit back then. So looking forward to your presentation. This committee is key because it is one of the financial wings for what this committee looks into and looks at. So Hunter Hill.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. It's great to be with y'all. It's great to see the work that y'all do. I know it's a sprint for the next couple months, and we're just proud to partner with y'all. And and certainly proud to partner with Commissioner Rabin and Director Cowan, and we do a lot of work together, so it's great to follow them. We sent you all this presentation. I don't know if it's in front of you. We can definitely make sure that oh, good. Excellent. So we'll just do a quick overview, and then I'm happy to answer any question. But GFA's overview, our mission is to conserve and improve Georgia's energy, land, and water resources. We have two main divisions. We focus on energy and water, and we'll go through that. And for some of the newer members, I guess one of the best ways to think of us is, you have EPD who regulates the environment, and oftentimes we partner with your local communities to provide the financing solutions to deal with regulatory challenges that they're facing or upgrades that they need. So we're in that way somewhat of an infrastructure bank for the state of Georgia. On the energy resources side, our team focuses on energy efficiency, renewable energy, energy assurance, and we manage the fuel storage tank program in the state. All the different agencies that have fuel storage tanks, we help them stay within compliance with EPD. And we work very closely, and I'll get into this, with Georgia Power and Oglethorpe and Georgia Transmission as well. The state energy program, which was created in the 70s, is a federally funded program for each of the states to partner with their utilities, partner with their communities on energy resilience and renewable energy and energy efficiency and things of that sort. A couple of example projects we've worked on in the past through that program is the Solar Resiliency Technical Assistance Program, which essentially helped local communities that wish to put solar panels on the roof of their government buildings. There was a Department of Energy grant to somewhat subsidize that process. We've also worked with, we created a building operator certification training program for state and local governments that are operating buildings like this, to understand about the technicalities of managing the building for energy efficiency and keeping the power bill as low as possible. We also perform the function of ESF 12, so whenever there's an emergency in the state, we have a representative in the State Operations Center working with Georgia Power, Oglethorpe Power, and Georgia Transmission to understand how quickly the power can get, put back on after a natural disaster. If any of the energy savings performance contracting, if any state agency wishes to make an investment in their building stack, if you will, for energy performance contracting, that first has to go through us, and then it also has to go through GISFIC. But we're part of that approval process to ensure that the project makes sense financially. And there's a couple of federal programs that I'll get into too that a lot has passed right before this administration that we are implementing, and some of them are going quite well, but some of them are on pause as a result of the new administration. But that's the Grid Resilience Grant Program, Grid Resilience and Innovation Partnerships, and the Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant. I wanted to highlight the Grid Resilience and Innovation Partnership because that's with Oglethorpe Power and Georgia Transmission. The previous administration was giving grant money out to local utilities for grid resilience and upgrading the grid to help disadvantaged communities experience less outages is really what it came down to during storms. But we won a grant from the Department of Energy for $249 million, and it was a 50-50 cost share. So Oglethorpe Power, Georgia Transmission, and the EMCs were going to put in, $258 million, and then they would get $249, and that project is still being fleshed out, and we're working through that. But it's a good resiliency project in the southwest part of the state that our partners, Oglethorpe Power and Georgia Transmission, are very excited about. On the next page, you can see how they've laid out these, what they've called disadvantaged census tracts, and then you can see where the project has, where it's focused on and how it's going to help. but there's essentially a lot of new transmission lines to connect different power sources for redundancy and resiliency.
Chairman, in just a minute, I'm going to have to move us along because we got one more presentation. But we have all the information in our folder, correct?
I'll keep it moving, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. We also run the Weatherization Assistance Program, which is a longstanding program by the feds that we upgrade disadvantaged members in our community's homes for energy efficiency for the purposes of keeping their energy bill as low as possible. We are in the process of implementing a large energy rebate program that will help all your constituents if they wish to do something similar to the weatherization program. If they invest in construction upgrades to their home that will result in a lower energy bill, there are rebates for some of that construction. Again, all of this is federally funded. We've started a pilot program and we're hoping to launch by the end of March. On the water side, which is what your communities are most familiar with, is we do water and wastewater financing. We're essentially an infrastructure bank. You all provide us capital, and we provide loans back to local communities for the purposes of upgrading their water and sewer infrastructure. On the overview, obviously the key benefits are well below market interest rates, quick turnaround time, in many cases no local match. But the goal is we're trying to keep our water resources as clean as possible and as low cost to our consumers as possible. We have to look at the loan capacity of how many funds we have, and the borrower eligibility and the eligibility of the project to meet our criteria. We have three main funds. The Georgia Fund, which is all state-funded money. We primarily use that for economic development because the federal programs don't allow us to invest in new capacity. If there's not already a water ratepayer at the end of that line, they don't allow us to use federal money for that. But clean water is focused on wastewater, and drinking water, of course, is drinking water, and those are federally funded programs with a state match. The program has long been created to serve our disadvantaged communities. Obviously, Atlanta, DeKalb, Gwinnett, they can go to the private capital markets to get bond financing to upgrade their water and sewer infrastructure. Many of your communities across the state can't afford to do that, so that's why we exist. And so we have a large criteria to make sure that we're prioritizing those more disadvantaged communities before we give out large dollars.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to have to move you right along, but you've got
Yes,
the
ma'am.
information for us in your packet, correct?
Well, yes, ma'am. And I would just say the last thing I'd say is this is how many pages of projects that we have in the pipeline, and so we appreciate y'all's support and happy to answer any questions going forward.
So, and then we will ask you back for more detail as well. We were trying to do an overview today.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
I liked your statement of calling yourself the State Infrastructure Bank for Georgia. So that they're the unsung heroes is what I want y'all to know. So thank you very much,
Proud to
Director.
help. Thank you.
And as we're going to learn about forestry now, and we could go on forever, and that could be a program for us for the whole session. But as Director Sabo is coming up, I want to mention there's something in your folder. There's an announcement next week, February the 6th, 2 o'clock, South Wing. It's a project that is going to announce a grant that can be used for recycling. So that information's in your folder. And for those of you that have to leave at 9, we know that we've asked all of our presenters today to give us all of their information, so you'll have a resource as we move along. And the lifespan of a tree is going to be a lot longer than what I can give you today to talk to us. But again, there's a shared passion for what y'all do, and it is amazing. And if you will also talk briefly about the people who do the fire management and the fire break and how you help all other states as well. Thank you. And introduce yourself. You're new to us.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. This on? There we go. Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate this opportunity. I realize I have about 10 minutes, so I'll try to be brief. My name is Johnny Sabo. I'm the Director for the Georgia Forestry Commission. Previous to this, I was a Deputy Director under Director Lauermore. So very happy to be here. Had the opportunity to present this committee in Athens not too long ago, so I'm going to hit a real brief overview and then kind of go into a little bit more, Madam Chair, what you just spoke about. So the first thing I really would like this committee to understand is we're an emergency response organization. If you look at our mission, it's provide leadership, service, and education, but that is all to protect and conserve Georgia's forests. The land that we work is your land, right? The land that we serve is a private landowner, so we take a lot of pride in that. Roughly 524 employees. 400 of those are emergency responders, wildland firefighters, wildland fire supervisors. The other portion of those, the vast majority are wildland fire certified, and they help serve in times of great need. So while like our foresters and many others, it's not their day job, they serve on engines and they do anything that they can when we need them. So like I said, we are an emergency response agency at heart. And I believe many of you got to see that during the Helene response. I heard the other day that Georgia doesn't have a lot of wildfires. Well, we take a lot of pride in our response. Even including nights and weekends, we have about a 25-minute response, and our average fire size is 5 acres. You can see last year we had a little over 2,600 wildfires in this state, and that's kind of a low year, and I'm going to show a little bit of that. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Hurricane Helene real quick. So GFC crews, they were responsible for assessing and clearing 40,000 miles of roads. And to put that in perspective, that's 7 round trips from Savannah to Seattle. So that was all done in 12 days with our chainsaw crews, skid steers, and then working with our partners. So that was an immense undertaking, and could not be more proud of our team for doing that. The other one is our foresters put in 2,800 plots within 4 days after the storm, as soon as those roads were clear, to help get our rapid assessment, to actually help put a dollar value on the damage, to help landowners access their timber, to really understand what we're facing as a state. But the thing I'm most proud of is 0 injuries. So that was that. If anybody's ran a chainsaw, you know how dangerous that is. Then you're running it under tension wood, traffic, everything else going on in the world. So that was just impressive in itself. So what's coming? So just a little bit more about my background. Prior to coming to the deputy here, I served almost 20 years with the state of Florida Forest Service. And the experience that I have that I never really wanted, unfortunately, is a lot of hurricanes and hurricane response. But with that comes fire danger. And there's only been a few hurricanes really in modern history. If you go back to Hugo, Ivan, Michael, and now Helene, that have the effect on timber that Helene did, and what's going to come after that. So now we have all this available fuels on the ground. And you'll see the tops of trees and everything else start to brown. Now we have available sunlight hitting the forest floor where it wasn't before, so this spring we'll have grasses growing. Well, all that large timbers, it's not gonna decompose, and it's not gonna be ready to burn till years 2, 3, and 4. So that means we're fighting fire with roadblocks in the way. And some real world numbers that we're seeing right now in that impact area is a 2-acre fire that used to take us about 30 minutes is now taking us 5 hours. Our tactics have to change. Our equipment has to change. How we do things has to change. And I can't think of a better example of that than just outside of the Panama City area where Georgia went and helped, but the series of fires called the Chipola Complex fires. Michael was 18, and if you look, this is March of 22. Massive fires. If you see the helicopter in the back, that's a Chinook, so that tells you we're dropping a lot of water and doing a lot of work on those fires and still having to evacuate homes and really just trying to steer the fire the best we can. So we know that that's in our future. So take an aggressive approach now of trying to clean all the down debris, install fire breaks, anything we can to be proactive is really important. The other part of that is I know California's been in the news a lot, and my heart certainly goes out for them. Have some good friends with CAL FIRE and what they do, but we try to be proactive here, and to put it in different terms, if you're a sports fan, we try to play offense as much as we can instead of defense. So how do we play offense? We kind of get down to the science of it, and for wildland fire, it comes down to simple as weather, topography, and fuels. Can't control the weather, we can't control the topography, so what do we do with the fuels? And as hard as this sounds in wildland fire terms, homes are fuels. So how do we make those fuels not available? The first ones and the first two that come to mind are fire break installation and prescribed fire. Last year we put in a little over 25,000 miles of fire breaks in the state, and that will certainly increase this year after the Helene response. A great example of that is we partner with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and we put in almost 170 miles worth of line around the Okefenokee Swamp that GFC maintains. And it's not just a line. It's on average 30 foot wide, and in the spots that's on the hill where your boots aren't wet, it's about 50 foot wide. So that is a large line that we maintain in the name of protecting private lands. Prescribed fire, 1.5 million acres last year. So just a huge undertaking by not just GFC, but all of our partners, NGOs, private landowners, and a robust prescribed fire program is probably the number one mechanism we have to prevent catastrophic wildfires. As I tell people, if you're going to drive a tractor, and we'll see a video of that in just a second, if you're going to drive a tractor and you're going to have to cross the head of a fire, would you rather do it in an area that's never been burned or somewhere that's burned every 2 to 3 years, right? So it really comes down to being that simple. The other interesting note is landowners take on a huge cost for prescribed fire. I crunched some numbers before coming here, and if we back out all the federal, state, governmental organizations, NGOs, and get down to private landowners and how much cost share money that we're able to pass through from federal agencies to help them conduct prescribed burning, it only pays for about 1.5% of the prescribed burning that's done on private lands. So private landowners really, they understand this practice here. They know how valuable it is, and that shows how much they're investing their time and their money. Another program that we kind of consider prevention, but really it's defense as well, is we administer our federal excess grant program and volunteer fire assistance program, where we work with the rural counties to get them better equipment. We can screen on military equipment, help get them grant funding, anything we can to help stand up their program. Our shop in Macon does a lot of custom work for them, and any type of engine we can help build for them or help them do, we take that on. Smokey's an easy one, right? Everybody loves Smokey, but that is a huge part, and that message out, because our number one cause of fires in the state is humans. So arson, not as much, we'll talk about that, but usually it's just careless, somebody careless with their fire in their backyard, and that escapes. We also utilize wildfire prevention teams. We do partner with the U.S. Forest Service on that, so in times of extreme drought, we will put together teams, and they will go to HOAs, communities, homes, and just make them aware and talk to them and try to be proactive and just completely eliminate that ignition source. The other things we do is we work with counties, so community wildfire protection plans. Believe it's 145 counties in the state have one. We're continuing to work with them to bring it on, but that's a plan that the county has that identifies where they have ingress and egress issues, where some danger areas are, what they can do to mitigate that, who to call, and it helps bring the county leadership, sheriffs, fire chiefs, EM directors, helps bring everybody to the table to kind of understand what they have and how to mitigate that. Firewise USA is a program that we actually have a dedicated employee in this state that really focuses on the north end of the state, because there's a lot of communities with one way in, one way out. People like to build their homes on the top of a ridge right above a box canyon, which is beautiful, but that acts as a chimney essentially in the time of a fire. And so how do we work with those homes, those communities to create what we call defensible space, to where when a fire, whether it's a structure firefighter or a wildland firefighter, when they go in there, it's, okay, I can make a stand here, I can defend this home, or unfortunately that's going to be fuel. As hard as that sounds, but that's the reality we face under those times. The other program that I'm really proud of that was started in 2009 is our law enforcement program. We have 7 law enforcement officers that investigate arson and timber theft. And I realize you can't see this graph, but Anna will get you the packet. It really just kind of tells itself the number of new starts that we have of incendiary arson fires. So once this program came online, arson historically was an issue in this state. It can be during certain times. We'll see little upticks, but we hit it hard. We work with the local sheriff's office, DNR, anybody, any partner that we can if we need to really focus in on an area. But just having that presence there and constantly working, monitoring, that, I mean, the proof is in the numbers, and it really shows itself. I know it's in a budget meeting, but I'm never going to miss an opportunity to throw this one out. So that is while we absolutely support the governor's budget requests to increase our fleet, all of this is really focused on the hurricane impact area. Where we have some smaller, what we call medium-sized tractors, it's just not going to go through there now. We know what our future looks like in 4, 5, 6 years in the fires that we're going to run. We're never going to clean up all the fuel. Those hardwood bottoms aren't going to be cleaned up. That Chipola complex I referred back to, those were the hardwoods burning in our swamps. So we know what's coming, so trying to be prepared for that now is the name of the game. It kind of goes back to that old Chinese proverb of the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, right? Second best time is now, and that's where we are, so trying to get ready for it. But had the opportunity to show this video at the appropriations meeting, and it went really well, so I thought I'd show it now for those that's never got to see what it's like inside one of our tractors. So this is drone synced up perfectly with a driver wearing a GoPro, and you can see him pushing through stuff, kind of how slow it is, how long it takes to establish that line through the debris, what they're looking at. What it doesn't show is, one side of that line being on fire and the smoke rolling over on top of them. That's kind of hard to get on video. But it's just a good opportunity to kind of give you a different perspective of what they're doing day in and day out down there in that impact area. And with that is really all I have for the committee. I'm happy to come back and take a deeper dive into any of our other operations, but I didn't want to miss this opportunity to talk about our fire program.
Thank you very much. And I want to say this for you as well. Georgia is the #1 forestry state in the nation. And to manage and do what you do with minimal support, so to speak, is amazing. And again, I think it's a calling for the people who work with forestry. You also are innovative in technology worldwide, how to keep moving the state forward. And so, yes, we will come back at a later time and a lot more. And eventually, our subcommittees, this is our first meeting, we will establish our subcommittees for that as well. But check my time. I think we just hit it, so a little bit, close enough.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you again, and please thank everybody in your division for what y'all do. And to our committee, we're getting ready to adjourn, but always look in the front of our office because we'll post our announcements and we'll send out our announcements to keep you up to date. But I'll conclude by saying thank you, welcome aboard. You have just joined a fabulous committee that knows passionately the state of Georgia. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And y'all, we stand adjourned.